Hey everyone, it's Christy, and I'm thrilled to be back with you on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the new Birdie Brown set called Sweater Weather in the Woods, and I'll also be using the Birdie Brown Fall Friends and the Pure Innocence Sending Blessings. So I've stamped my images out with some black licorice hybrid ink, and I'm coloring with my Copic markers. I'm starting with my Musa, and for him I'm using E21, E23, E25, E27, and E29. So I'm putting my darkest shade down in the area around his neck, since his head would be casting that in shadow, and also the collar of his sweater. And then pulling that out with the E27. Then I'm going to bring in the E25 to fill in that area around his neck and pull that color in toward the center of his face. But I don't want it to get quite so dark around his eyes. You want to really be able to see those. So I'm going to do the rest of his face with the E23. And then the E21 I'm going to bring in for the muzzle. So I'm going to scrub over that line where the E23 is going to transition into the muzzle, and then just fill in the rest of that space with that marker. Then for the lower half of his body, I'm going to start again with that E29 and add my shading on the left-hand side of his body. I'm shading my critters today in the direction that they're facing, which means the shadows will be on the back side of their body and the highlight will be on the front. So I'll finish up his belly with the E23 and then do his antlers the same way that I did his muzzle with the E21 and E23. For the beaver, I'm using E41, E43, E44, E47, and E49. I'm going to use the darkest three shades to color in his tail, feet, his nose, and also the nose of the fox, and the hooves on the moose. And then for the rest of his body, I'll just be using the lighter three shades, starting with the E44 as my shadow, blending that out with the E43, and filling in with the E41 as my highlight. And since he and the rest of the critters are all facing forward, I'm going to do an equal amount of shadow on both sides of their bodies, and that's just going to help them have a more rounded appearance and lift them off the page a bit. For the owl, I'm using E70, E71, E74, E77, and E79. The only shadow that I'm doing a little bit differently on him is on the inside of his wings. I added the darkness right close to his body, so it just pushes them back a bit, and then the sun would hit them most likely on the edges. So I just went down to the E74, just used the darkest three shades for the majority of his body, and then I'm using the lighter two shades for his eyes. Just a little E71 down at the bottom, and then blending up with the E70. For the little fox, I'm using Y38, YR14, and YR18. This is a new combo to me that I just tried out today, and I really do like the way it turned out. So I started with the YR18 as my shadow, just adding that color on both sides of his body, also a little bit on the inside of his legs and where his tail is connected. And then I'm pulling that out with the YR14. These are both pretty orange, but the Y38 has a little bit more of a yellow tone, but it does blend really nicely with that YR14. So I'm going to bring that in and just fill in the rest of his face. Like I said earlier with the moose, I like to keep the area around the eyes nice and light so that you're really able to see them well. For the whites of his body, I wanted to keep with that orangey tone, but just super pale. So I'm using the YR000, the YR00, and the colorless blender. So now moving on to their sweaters, which I just love. I think there are so many cute different opportunities to color these in different ways, and I think it just makes them look extra cozy and snuggly. So I'm using the YR21 and YR23 for the Musa's sweater, And since I only had 2 markers that kind of went together for the look that I wanted, this kind of mustardy yellow, I did go back and add a little bit more of that YR23 to help deepen that a bit. For the fox's sweater, I'm using Y93, Y95, and Y99, and just shading as I did their bodies, both on the left and the right, equally, and then doing a little distinction on the ribbed area along the collar, and then just pulling toward the center with my lighter 2 shades. And you can see that as I'm going along, I'm also going to be filling in some of the other details on the other sweaters, just adding some of those fun pops of color so I can spread it throughout the card. For the beaver's sweater, I'm using BG72, BG75, and BG78. And then I decided to do something a little bit different and color the larger pumpkin with these same shades. I often see like a greenish colored pumpkin or gourd, and I thought it would be fun to do something like that on today's card. And the smaller pumpkin I colored with the same markers I used on the fox. The red combination that I'm using for some of the details on the sweaters is R29, R39, and R59. And then I'm also going to color in all of the leaves with a combination of the different shades I used on the sweaters. And then I took a black gel pen and went over the eyes just to brighten those up a bit. And then I trimmed all of the images out with the matching dies. For my background, I took the Wonky Stitch Rectangle and Grassy Hills Die-namics and cut those out of some watercolor wash pattern papers. I used a light aqua for the sky and a darker green shade for the grass, and I'm just gluing those down with some liquid glue to a piece of thin white cardstock just to add a little more stability to that pattern paper so that later I can pop this up with some foam tape and it'll be nice and sturdy on the card. Then I can begin to add my images, and I'm going to start with the moose since he's the largest one. He's going to go over on the left-hand side of the card, and I just love how he's holding that coffee cup. I think he looks so cute. And then I'm going to take the beaver since he's going on the far right of the card, so I'll have those balancing out the sides, and then the fox will go in the center. He's my favorite one, so I had to put him right in the middle. I'm going to put the larger of the 2 pumpkins up under the fox's arm and just tuck that back there, and then add the orange one a little bit closer to the moose, and that will break up that orange color so there's not the orange fox and the orange pumpkin right next to each other. I'm going to tuck in some of my leaves into the grasses and then add this really pretty colored one into the fox's hand. Then I'll put my owl up in the top right corner and add another little leaf just floating in the wind. Then I'm going to pop this panel into my MISTI and stamp out my sentiment using some brown ink. I'm using the one that says "Sending Warm Hugs," which fit just perfectly in that space. While I have my MISTI out, I'm also going to stamp on the inside of my card. I'm using a sentiment from the Birdie Brown Fall Friends set, along with the bear and the steam lines from the Sweater Weather in the Woods. And I did stamp that down twice to make sure that I got a really good impression, especially since that was the first time that I was stamping out that bear. Then I'm actually going to close the card base and pop it back in so that I can stamp out a few of the leaves from the Pure Innocence Sending Blessings stamp set. And then I'm also using the little steam lines, but I'm using it instead as gusts of wind. I definitely wanted to use some more pattern paper on this card with some different prints to tie in with the different prints on the sweaters. So I've got these 2 pieces from the Sweet Celebration 6x6, and I'm going to layer the orange polka dot on top of the yellow harlequin pattern, and then that is going to go right across the center of the card. Then all that's left is to grab my focal panel, peel off the release papers from the foam tape that I added to the back, and then line that up in the middle. Once I'm sure that it's nice and straight, I'll go ahead and press that down into place. And that is going to complete my card for today. I'll give you another peek at the inside. So I hope you guys enjoyed this September edition of Christy Gets Crafty with my favorite things. I loved playing with these little characters. I thought they were so cute and so much fun to color. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can leave me a comment down below. I love interacting with you guys that way. Don't forget to subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye.